thanks to organize it. Good afternoon. Namaste. And thanks a lot to the NDIM for inviting me to be with you this afternoon, and you should know that it's a great honor and privilege for me to be with you this afternoon, have opportunity to interact with you, and eventually increase your interest in the Czech Republic and willingness to establish some sort of relationship with the country in the heart of Europe. To be honest, when reflecting what to say today, I was also thinking when I was in your shoes. And I had to admit that it had been a long time. And the question I posed to myself was, what kind of message I can offer to talented students of New Delhi Institute of Management. Then I opened the Institute's webpage to get acquainted with its vision. And I got quite important source of inspiration for my today's address. And I just thought that I will use it maybe as a basic theme around which I would be willing to structure my thoughts. And I believe what is written there is that the Institute is intended to impart the higher level of education. And I tell you, I can't agree more. Because only high level education. I would also add relevant education, because relevancy has always been there. Can equip young people with the knowledge, employable competencies, and transferable skills that are needed to be successful, not only after graduation, because graduation is just the beginning, but also be able to face challenges of fast growing labor market. No doubt that high quality education would remain an illusion without the environment encouraging high quality teaching. And this is definitely the role of the state. We do have so many teachers here. their role is irreplaceable. Without them, let's forget about our education. But at the same time, I would say that their role has also changed, and quite dramatically, over the last couple of years. And it depends very much on their ability to adjust to rapidly changing world, improve learning experience, embrace technological changes, and definitely implement them in classrooms. And when talking about classrooms, I know that in today's world it may not necessarily be about classrooms, that there are different possibilities of getting messages across. Then, if my memory serves me well, and here I will have to look up to develop the next generation of business leaders. Leaders in general, but if we talk about world of business, business leaders play increasingly important role to generate long-term fundamentals of prosperity and competitiveness. Whether we talk about society as a whole or about individual companies, and it doesn't matter whether you have in mind private companies or those owned by state. I'm mentioning it to you because it's important that to be a good leader, it requires so many things. You have to be able to appreciate, to understand perfectly the environment in which you operate. You have to be able to develop, but not only develop, but also implement winning strategies. And at the same time, you have to have your own visions and be able to create good teams to transform your visions into reality. And this is when personal capabilities of business leaders come into the picture. And when talking about personal capabilities, definitely it is not only about the hard skills, but also about soft skills, about people's capacity to communicate with members of the team, motivate them, be able to manage conflict situations, but at the same time have the capacity to communicate results of your work. Then going on in the text, I saw that there is quite important to clarify what kind of business leaders the Institute has in mind. And here I read that Institute would like to raise people with global outlook and capability of adapting to the fast-changing business environment of India and the world at large. And here you may recall that a minute ago I talked about fast-changing labor market, about a rapidly changing world. It may sound like a cliché. It is in fact cliché, but there are certain clichés that are worth of being repeated. And to understand all these changes, be able to reflect them in your own mindset. This is for me the gateway for success. Many tend to say the world has become smaller, sort of growing global village. And we can perfectly understand the meaning of these words, based definitely on technological advances in telecommunication and transportation. But I would add to this that these technological advances cannot be taken as granted. One has to be work hard to be able to embrace them. One has to be able to speak foreign languages. One has to be able to set for himself ambitious objectives, to be able to get decent job. And definitely it is also about openness and readiness of people to be open to other nations' cultures, habits, religions, experiences. So for me, in my perception of so-called small world or growing global village, it is something where all people across the globe can perfectly benefit from increasingly interlinked world. And that about India, I tell you, as ambassador, I had opportunity to visit the country in my previous capacity, as you have heard, as Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade. And I tell you that India has made tremendous strides to put the country on the path of sustainable growth, improve business environment, open up the economy to the outside world, and definitely deal with certain pressing societal objectives. I have the privilege to represent the Czech Republic to India. It is 10 million nation, maybe half of the capital city of New Delhi. But believe me, as ambassador of a smaller country, I have never faced a situation when people put emphasis on the size. Here the size doesn't matter. In India the size doesn't matter. The experience I gained and my family, we have gained together, is that it is primarily about people's willingness to sit around the table, to listen to each other, show respect for each other. And I tell you, I have been extremely privileged, thanks to God, of visiting so many countries across the globe. So many countries. I spent 12 years in Geneva. But I tell you, with full respect for all the differences, I tell you, whether you are in Brazil, Costa Rica, the US, Europe, Japan, for me, it is always the same. It is about man and woman. It is about their genuine will to grow up the family. to get decent work. And if you are able to understand that, then you can much easier manage all the differences. All the differences. And this is also something I, as ambassador of the Czech Republic, appreciate a lot here in India. That the country has been able not only to manage these differences, but also transform them into positive synergies. You should know that the two countries, we have been enjoying a thriving relationship. This year, we will be celebrating 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the then Czechoslovakia and India. But definitely our contacts date back decades and centuries before that formal act of establishment diplomatic relations. And when visiting the institute, I saw a picture of a famous Tagore. You know, the Nobel winner of literature, the first who received that literature. And he was non-European. We do have a street in Prague that bears his name. And you know why? Because he had very strong bonds with our country. He visited it. He visited it twice. And imagine that in a small Czech Republic, in the 20s of last century, there is a professor. His name is Professor Lesny. And he was the first who translated Tagore directly from Bengali into foreign language, into Czech. But being in New Delhi today, you can also study the Czech language here in New Delhi. We do have a program at the New Delhi University. I am so happy that in 1.3 billion India there are young people who are keen to learn Czech language. You should also know that your counterparts, Czech students, they can study Sanskrit or Hindi at one of the oldest universities in Europe, which is the Charles University, which started providing world-class skill in 1348. By the way, we do have a number of Indian students. I don't know whether I still have some time to go on to elaborate on some other aspects. Student exchanges, definitely. One of my government's priorities. I'm so happy to be able to contribute. We participate in so many education fairs here in India. We invite professors, universities to come interact with people here, showcase the programs. We do have around 70 universities in 20 cities in the Czech Republic. They offer around 70 programs, accredited programs in English. These universities provide world-class skill, and I believe for money, the beauty in our system is that it is highly price competitive. So I would say that for half price you can get the same quality as in any other country, and I will not deliberately quote these countries. And if you are good in Czech, if you are able to pass exams in Czech, you will be studying free of charge, because there is no difference between Czechs and foreigners. The only condition is that you have to be able to follow the program in Czech language. And being there, you will not feel alone. You will not feel alone, as there are so many Indians making their studies there. And sorry if I say so, they are definitely not there just to make their studies, but definitely also enjoy beauties of the country, the hospitality of people, and definitely enjoy also Czech cuisine, which is slightly different from what you have here in India. We just talk about culture. Culture changes. I was extremely privileged to have the Minister of Culture of the Czech Republic in India last week, and he called on his Indian counterpart, Minister Sharma. And I tell you, it was extremely productive meeting, because it was reflective of so many activities we have been carrying out together. And I just informed your chairman that in January 2018 we will be having in India full-fledged Philharmonic orchestras. One of the best we do have in the Czech Republic. You call it Western classical music, to differentiate between what you have here in India and what is classical music in other corners of the world. They will come, they will be performing into cities, here in New Delhi, Mumbai, Goa and Kolkata. And Mr. Chairman, the concert in New Delhi will take place in Shirifort. So I'm inviting, how many? Okay, so those 20 students who are interested, we will be definitely inviting them to come with us. But on one condition: if you get tickets, you have to come. It requires us tremendous effort. A huge amount of money is needed. The only artist will receive or can receive is your recognition. So if you are there, if you like it, then hopefully I will have not to ask you, but you will be enthusiastically putting your hands together and applauding, because they are brilliant artists. And imagine that the orchestra is being conducted by certain Debashi Chaudhary. Who is not Czech? Definitely he's an Indian. He made his studies in West Bengal at Kolkata School of Music. He has been working with Philharmonic orchestras in Europe for so many years, 57 years in India. So we are so happy. So these are examples that the world has really become smaller and smaller, you know. He got married with a beautiful Czech lady, no doubt about that. By the way, that orchestra comes from the same city where Thomas Bata was born. You know who is Thomas Bata? Ladies, you don't buy Bata shoes? So do you know Thomas Bata? Many in India believe that he was of Indian origin. I have nothing against. Why? Because for me, this is a recognition of what Thomas Bata has done. He set his facilities in the city of Zlín, 300 kilometers away from the capital of Prague. And later on, he replicated the same model of entrepreneurship here in India. Exactly the same model, which was extremely generous for people working for Bata's company. And today, there are two cities here in India. One is Bata Nagar. You know where is it? Who said so? Who said Kolkata? You have the ticket. And if you have a girlfriend, 2 tickets. Thank you very much. Absolutely, it's nearby. I visited the place a year ago. I tell you, it's a beautiful, beautiful manufacturing facility. Beautiful, I like it very much. Trade and investment. Definitely, we have been dramatically increasing our trade exchanges. Last year, total trade between our two countries was about 1.35 billion US dollars. 1.35 billion US dollars. For me as ambassador, it is gratifying to see that again it is a two-way avenue. That bilateral trade is more or less balanced. And Indian companies, they are doing extremely well. They are doing extremely well. The only I regret that quite often products, Indian products, we buy in the Czech Republic are not being imported directly from India, but through some other countries. But this is maybe what today's world of global value chains is about. But my objective is definitely to streamline, to encourage partners on both sides to be ready to work hard together with a view to establishing direct commercial ties. And this is also what one of the most prestigious engineering fairs is about. This fair will take place next month in the city of Brno, which is 200 kilometers away from Prague. And I'm proud to say that India will participate as a partner country. So we are just about to finalize all preparations, and I believe that the presence of India as a partner country will be an important milestone in the case of promoting and strengthening bilateral relations between our two countries. Definitely we drink Indian tea in the Czech Republic. When my Minister of Foreign Affairs was in town, they talk about this. His Indian counterpart was pleased to hear to that, but I whispered to my minister, tell him that we drink not only Indian tea, but we drink also Indian coffee. Coffee Day. This chain is perfectly present in the Czech Republic. You can get one of the best coffees there. It's not necessarily cheap, but it's very nice. And we do have so many Indian companies working in automotive sector, steel sector, pharmaceuticals. I mentioned food processing, IT sector, Infosys. And I believe that they don't regret the decision of entering the Czech market and developing business activities there. Because as a member of the European Union, and you know that the Czech Republic is a member of the European Union, well, if you are able to establish your commercial presence there, then it is not about 10 million Czech Republic, but it is about 500 million EU market. 28 countries applying the same set of rules. So I will maybe stop here to share my perspective of what I believe is the higher education, how I see today's global and increasingly interlinked world. And I also tried to shed some light on a thriving relationship between the Czech Republic and Czechia. Czechia is one word name of the Czech Republic. So once again, thank you very much for being here. Thanks a lot for listening. And if time allows, I'll be more than willing to respond to any question you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency, for sharing sexually vital insights with us and acquainting us with the country, and especially the opportunities that it has for Indian students, and also your kind invitation to the concert. Thank you so much. His Excellency, now we proceed to the question-answer round, and we would take 3 questions.
Do you think physical classrooms are going to be relevant in the long term as more and more virtual classes and online education is coming across? And the second question is, do you think that one day there will be a unified global education system due to the advancement in online education systems?
And this would be also my answer to his question. Or at least first part of his question. I'm not necessarily an old man, but I'm an older man. For me, it's always about community of people. For me, it is about what interaction among and between people. And with full respect for modern technologies, I still believe that it is important that people get together, that they can talk to each other, because in dialogue, you can get the best result. Because if you have more people around the table, then you can easily understand each other, narrow eventual gaps. Think in Geneva, sitting around the table, 150 countries together there. But you have to see the face of someone to whom you talk to. You have to be able to feel his emotions, to be able to better understand what he has in his mind. So sorry, but this is my answer to your question. I'm not an expert, so definitely my point of view doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But definitely, as what I would understand as a complementary method, then definitely the potential is there. And don't forget that not all are as lucky as we are. We live in New Delhi, So we can easily, well, from time to time, if there is a traffic jam, not so easily, but we can reach out to respective schools. But not all are lucky enough. People live in remote areas where there is no connectivity. So for these young people, it is a must that we bring new technologies there, and we can provide education to these people through these new technologies. And from this perspective, definitely internet, all that stuff is so important that we are able really to reach out to really remote areas, to provide world-class skill to tribal people. The second part of your question, what was the second part of the question?
Do you think that one day there will be a unified education system globally?
I believe that there will be not. Because I believe that there are, I talk about certain similarities, but I believe that each and every education system should reflect strength of each and every nation, habits, cultures, experiences. And only on that basis, definitely, to be able to embrace technological advances, definitely be ready to share experience, best practices, all that is so important. But still, I would dare to say, let us focus on various educational systems, but please, I would sound cautious against any unification. This does not necessarily mean that students should not travel. Well, we do have in Europe program Erasmus. Have you heard about Erasmus? Even Indians can go and do one semester or trimester at any university in Europe. So definitely to be able to do that, you need to have certain level of compatibility. But again, the beauty of the system is that people from different corners, representing different cultures, come together. And this is the beauty of the system. So, sorry once again, probably it was not that kind of answer you have expected, but I'm definitely saying no, I am strongly against any global unified education system. Thank you very much.
One more question to the audience that supports its development. So what are the demographics for Czech and how can it be leveraged?
Yes. I tell you, this is extremely interesting story. "65% of people here below the age of 35. Am I right? It's amazing. So when I look into the future, I see India. When I look into the future, you see young people like those sitting here in this room, working definitely, primarily here in this country, but at the same time standing at the help of important multinationals, international organizations. Definitely, big nation, tremendous challenges. One of them, the most important challenges, is to integrate young people here with labor market. And again, and I'm returning back what I mentioned a minute ago, we're talking about high quality education. In today's highly competitive world, you will be increasing your chances to get a really decent work if you are able to receive high quality job. In the Czech Republic, we will be facing big problem rising from aging. Even today, we are lacking professionals. The economy is doing extremely well. It grew by 4.7% in the second quarter of the calendar year 2017. Imagine European country growing at such dynamic pace. But there are limits. And definitely limits are that companies do not have people to be employed. And here definitely as ambassador of the Czech Republic, I see potential to create new partnerships. People who are successful in making their studies in the Czech Republic, they can easily get a job there. And I would even say that we should be able to set a program. Technical universities, the level of competence here in India is extremely high. And I believe that we, both countries, can gain quite a lot if we join efforts together and we put in place a sustainable system allowing exchange of labor force and exchanging mostly Indians traveling and working in the Czech Republic. Even today we have so many of them. Give you one sector for example. I talk about Czech national cuisine, but the Indian kitchen, Indian cuisine is well known in the Czech Republic. And imagine that only in the capital city of Prague we do have around 70 Indian restaurants. And all these restaurants are run by Indians. They are not run by Czechs who heard something about India. We know it very well because they had to come and apply for permit visa at the Czech embassy. So this is one of the examples, but definitely if you have your own specialization, if you have something to offer, then it's more or less your choice where to work. And this is how I see the world. And definitely we should be able to put in place a very well calibrated policy to be able to deal with the problem of aging in years to come. So thank you very much for very, very good questions. Come make studio in the Czech Republic.